Hi guys, I'm Random Trashy and welcome to my Airsoft channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my Amoeba AM-013, also known as the Honey Badger. Here it is here. So I recently purchased this about 4 or 5 months ago and I really wanted to give it some time using it before I gave an in-depth review. A lot of the reviews that are online are someone that's clearly just picked it up out of the box and they're giving an overview of how the gun looks and they've chronoed it for performance. I really wanted to give it some time using this gun so that I could give you a really in-depth review of how it's performed for me in different scenarios and locations. So a little brief overview of the gun if you're unaware of what this is. This is Aries have created these. It's from a new line called Amoeba and this is the AM-013. It really does resemble the Honey Badger from some of the Call of Duty games. My one's slightly modified from how it come out of the box, so it come with some flip-on up sights on top and no grip on the bottom. So my one's been customised. So I'll start from the back, give you a brief overview of the gun and go through some of the customization that I've made. This is a collapsible folding stock, so you can just pinch this button in at the back here, collapse the stock up, and it makes a real compact little weapon and quite nice down by your side. You haven't got a stock up in your face if you're hanging it from a sling. That little depression of the button at the back here, push it and the stock locks nicely into place. This is plastic or hard APS polymer, and the rails are metal. As we move forward, the body is polymer, and I'll go into some more details about the body a little bit further on in the video. Then you've got your release on the side, and this shows some metal internals. I've actually upgraded my Hop Up, which you might be able to see. It's a nice shiny blue Prowin, and that's purely because the one that came in it was plastic and I was worried about damaging it in the heat of battle, throwing a mag in the bottom and potentially chipping or you know, damaging that tube that goes down into your magazine well. The front handguard is aluminium along with the outer barrel and silencer, so it's all nice and solid at the front. And on the front here I've got a Madbull 45 hand grip. So I guess that's a base overview of the gun. I bought it from Tiger 111 HK. I will put a link in the box below just so that you know, if you fancy buying one of these, you know exactly where I got it from. I paid $220, so about £160, and we done it on a big bulk order between me and some friends. And you know, all in I think it comes about 180. They retail in the UK for around 220 to 250, depending on where you're looking, but they are quite difficult to get hold of just because of the demand. I obviously play a sniper, and I think quite a few of you are aware that a lot of my previous videos are around sniping equipment. This, for me, I like the look of it. I potentially wanted a secondary, something to go down to, and especially as I've been moving around the team a little bit, I've had to go at TLing, broken down to 2 IC, and also taken off my own squad. Whereas previously I haven't been able to do that because I've had the sniper with me and I wouldn't want to put the men on the front line where I can't be there with them. So I bought this and was absolutely blown away by how well this gun performs. For me to say that it is up there with a Celsius or Systema, it probably isn't. You know, it's a £160 gun in comparison to 2000. But if you're going to compare it to a G&P, ICS or a Umarex, it is definitely up there, and I would say in some cases better because of the internal parts. So, you know, some of the people have said about the polymer body. I was recently at a Sterling game at the Valley. I don't know if any of you guys have been there or experienced that, but when we were there, it was in November, it was about -5, and the gun performed flawlessly for both days that we were out and throughout the night. It was laid in the mud, in the wet, as I say, down to -5, picked up in the morning, a few test shots, worked perfect. I was absolutely blown away by how well this thing performed. I think that's partially down to the fact that it doesn't store as much cold, having a polymer body, and it is also quite nice on the hand, the fact that when I picked up my friend's Umarex in the morning after trying to get some kit for a few hours in the rain, his gun was so cold, even through my gloves I found it quite difficult to hold, whereas this absorbed very little heat. It does have one of Amoeba's specialist gearboxes in here, which is a V2 style, so it's a non-split style gearbox, and it actually contains full metal casing, upgraded metal gears, a high torque motor, and an EFCS chip that's in here that actually allows the gun to be programmed. So you can buy an external box, it plugs into the battery, then you can reset your program fire. So at the moment mine is single, full auto and safe. You can redo that so that you can have single, burst fire and safe, or you could have burst fire, full auto and safe. I don't really use full auto, it's something that I kind of not frown upon, but it's something that if people in my team or in my squad are using full auto, it is something that I'll tell them not to, and I prefer people to be using, you know, single shot or, you know, slight burst, 3-round burst. But realistically, I think that you should be close enough to someone to double tap them. You know, you shouldn't be just spraying kind of BBs in the air on full auto, just for realism, but also because I like to play with an accuracy, and I know that in real military you're not going to do that, not even with suppressing fire. You would be on the trigger trying to conserve rounds if you're out on the ground. So I guess that's kind of my little bitch over about how much I hate full auto. Let's get back to how fantastic this gun is. So as I say, I've used it at a ton of games. It's been at the sandpit, it's been at the valley, I fell on it. So anyone complaining about the polymer bodies, I weigh about 11 stone. I had about 60 kilos worth of kit with me all in, so that was 6 litres of water in my Bergen. That was with all of my cooking gear, that was my night gear, that was warm weather stuff, that was cold weather clothing as well, you know, a basher, all of my sleeping equipment, and I slipped on some slate, and even with webbing and everything on, and fell straight on the middle of this gun, and there is no marks to it at all. So I'll just quickly spin that round so you can see both sides. It was perfect, you know. Picked it up, couple of fires, perfect, worked great. And a few of the guys were quite worried because I went down quite hard, slipped on some slate with all the kit on in the middle of the night, and they heard this big thud and it was me going down. But yeah, the gun was perfect. It's worked really, really well. The way that the trigger works as well, I think, is something that, you know, people don't mention in these reviews. Your standard trigger has a male part on the back of the trigger, and then it goes into a housing. So I'll do this side on as if the gun's laid down. As you pull the trigger, the male fits into the female, it creates a connection, allows current to pass through there, and will then turn over your motor. The trigger connection in the Amoeba is actually a solid reflex button with a metal plate in front of it that acts as a cantilever, as a spring. So as you push it, it just clicks the button in and allows it to spring the trigger back. That gives you really, really strong responsiveness, and you can hear that in the responsiveness of the trigger. So if you just listen to it rebound, you can listen to how much pressure that is forcing the trigger back. It gives you a real snappy, very aggressive trigger feeling when you're actually firing rounds out of the gun, and it makes it very responsive. So if you've ever used a Systema or a Celsius, you get that real sharp reflex of the trigger, and it makes using the gun a lot nicer than, you know, quite soft, spongy trigger where you're waiting for that recoil of the trigger to come back forward if you are rapidly trying to put shots down range. That's about it for this, for a wrap up. I mean, I'm more than happy to go through any questions that you have about the Amoeba AM-013. I would 100% recommend this gun. If you can get it for under £200, you're onto an absolute winner. I have upgraded mine internally. It was going to be another video that I was going to do, but I think, you know, if you want me to be completely honest, I did upgrade the Hop Up because it come with a plastic one, and I was concerned about breaking that on one of the 48-hour games. And the internal barrel, although it is a 6.03, it is quite cheap quality. I've put a 70-75 aircraft aluminium Madbull Ultimate 6.01 barrel in here. I'll put the link in the box below. Does it really need it? Probably not, but I have gone for, you know, absolute accuracy and absolute performance with this gun. It is now my primary when I'm not sniping, so it's something that I thought for an extra £40 really does give you some extra accuracy. It chronos at about 400, which is too hot for my local sights, so I have downgraded it with the quick change spring system and put an AM-013 spring in it. Brings it down to about 350. If you do have any more questions on the Amoeba AM-013 or the Honey Badger, please feel free to drop a comment in the box below. I'll add all of the links into the description. If you do get one and you want my recommendations, go and buy one. They are a fantastic gun, they will not disappoint. I also had a quick chat with the guys from Aries just to give me a little bit of an update on what they plan on doing with this platform, and they are going to create some, obviously, not strange, but some different variants. You know, the Honey Badger itself is quite an individual looking gun. And obviously you've got some other M08, which is a much shorter railed version of this with the silencer on the front, and they are going to be creating some new concepts for 2015 around this platform. So stay tuned with Aries, and also stay tuned to my channel. If you do have any questions, please feel free to ask. I have had this apart quite a few times, so if you are having any technical problems, please feel free to drop me a message and I will get back to you. So I've been Random Trashy. This has been my kind of brief review of the Aries Amoeba AM-013. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.